What is going on, everybody? Today I continue my 2025 college football schedule predictions, and today we are predicting the schedule for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State is coming off of a national championship victory, their first national title since 2014. They went 14-2 and had a dominant playoff run, and they definitely deserved the national championship victory. They were very talented, definitely the most talented team in the country. But the question is, can they make it back to the national title next season and repeat? I do think that is going to be very difficult to do, but they do have a very talented roster despite losing a lot of talent. They lost a ton of starters on offense. They lost Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, Will Howard, multiple offensive linemen. They lost Emeka Ibuka. Defensively, they lost most of their starters. They lost Jack Sawyer, Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, JT Tuimoloau, Cody Simon, Denzel Burke, Lathan Ransom, Jordan Hancock. The list goes on and on. They lost a ton of talent. But if you look on the bright side, they returned a young stud at wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith, probably the best player in college football. And I'd say you could make a case for Caleb Downs to be the second best player in college football returning on defense. Both these guys are extremely talented and young. This Ohio State team still has a very talented roster. Connell Tate is going to have a big year. Brandon Ennis is a guy that could break out. James Peoples is a young, talented running back, and they also got CJ Donaldson, West Virginia's top running back, out of the portal. They picked up one of the best tight ends in the country in Max Clare from Purdue. The quarterback position is a bit of a question mark. Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz have a quarterback battle going on there. Lincoln Kienholz has been there for a couple of years. Julian Sayin is a 5-star with massive potential, but he's still young. So we'll see who wins the battle there. I'm expecting it to be Julian Sayin. But I will say the quarterback position is a question mark. Defensively, they have a bunch of new guys coming up. But they did recently just add a very good transfer in Bo Atkinson from North Carolina, one of the better edges from the ACC. I am very intrigued to see how this Ohio State team bounces back. They're 101st in return in production. They lose both their coordinators and a lot of their top talent. And this is a team that is coming off of a national championship victory. This team may take a step back, but I don't think it changes the fact that this team is still absolutely a national title contender with the high level of talent that they have. They are always recruiting at a high level. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into predicting their 2025 schedule. And they opened the season playing Texas at home in a rematch from last season's semifinal game. Just like Ohio State, Texas is a team that does have to reload at some positions. They lose a bunch of NFL talent, and they are actually just 2 spots behind Ohio State in return in production. And although ESPN says that Ohio State has more return in production, I still think this Texas team has more returning talent on defense. And I think their defense is something that could really help them to a win in this game, because I think it could be tough for Ohio State to score points on that Texas defense with a freshman quarterback and Julian Sayin. I know people also have questions with Arch Manning at quarterback for Texas, but he has a bit more experience. He has stepped up as a backup for Quinn Ewers before, and he's been waiting behind him for a couple of years. Texas does lose all of their top offensive talent. They lost Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, multiple offensive linemen, their top tight end, Jaden Blue, Quinn Ewers. The list goes on and on. But defensively, I think they could have the best defense in the nation next season. And I think people might even be underestimating that defense. Anthony Hill Jr. is an absolute monster coming back at linebacker. Trey Moore is very good as well. And a guy that could absolutely break out and be a monster for them is Cullen Simmons. He's only a sophomore. The senior Ethan Burke is back. They add some important pieces through the portal as well. Michael Taffey and Malik Muhammad are back in the secondary. They recently picked up a freshman All-American at defensive tackle in Murad Watson. They picked up a very good tight end and Jack Andrews on offense. They picked up another good defensive lineman and Lavon Johnson from Maryland. They have been building their roster through the portal. And I think they have a very good rushing attack. CJ Baxter is coming off of injury. And Quintravion Wisner had an absolute monster season last year. He really had to carry a huge load for that Texas offense after CJ Baxter was out the whole season. Ryan Wingo is a young guy who could break out and achieve 1,000 receiving yards. DeAndre Moore is back at wide receiver. The offense does have some holes that they need to fill. On the offensive line is one place. but they have really addressed a lot of those needs. I really trust the defense, and I think Arch Manning and that Russian attack can do enough in this game. I think Ohio State will drop this game in week 1, and I think they lose it, so I have them moving to 0-1. The following week, they will play Grambling State. This will be a very easy win for the Buckeyes. This is a game that gets their new faces in rhythm with this team. Julian Sayin is probably going to have a big game, or Lincoln Keenholz, whoever the starter is. I'm just going to think that it is Julian Sayin. After a few weeks, he'll probably step up into his comfort zone, but Julian Sayin could struggle for the first couple of weeks. That's why I don't think they're going to beat Texas. But they will certainly beat this team, and I have them moving to 1-1. They then play Ohio at home, and this is the absolute same story. Maybe not the same level of talent, but Ohio State is way more talented than Ohio. Ohio does have a solid quarterback. Maybe they battle with Ohio State for like a quarter or two. Navarro Parker is one of the better quarterbacks returning in the group of 5. They have some good receivers back as well. I think this team will absolutely be a contender in the MAC, but they stand no chance against Ohio State. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 2-1. Ohio State will have a bye week, and then they go on the road to play a tricky game at Washington. If Ohio State is having issues early in the season, this could be a game that could really be tricky for them. Washington is one of the toughest places to play in the country. A lot of teams lose there. If we look at the rosters, Ohio State obviously has a better roster. They're the more talented team. But traveling across the country to play Washington could catch up to them. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a 4-quarter game. I do think Washington is going to be a good team next year and a lot better. I think they could be underrated. Damon Williams is a potential breakout quarterback. I think he's going to go off. They return Jonah Coleman, one of the best running backs in the country. Denzel Boston and Kevin Green Jr. are back at wide receiver. Amari Evans is a decent pickup from the portal. Washington has weapons on offense, and defensively, they add Arizona's top 2 defensive players from the last 2 seasons. They got 2 very great leaders on defense in Jacob Manu and Takario Davis. Jedd Fisch has worked with them before, and Jedd Fisch is a great head coach. This Washington team should take a step forward next season. I know they lose like 10 of their top 12 tacklers, but this Washington defense is still deep. I expect them to be consistent on defense. So I'm not going to look at this game and think Ohio State easily blows out Washington. I think this could be a tricky game. But regardless, Ohio State is the way more talented team. I already had them losing to Texas. They have a bye week heading into this game. I think they win this game. And they will probably win it by double digits. I have them moving to 3-1. The following week, they play Minnesota at home. This is another team with a very good returning running back. They return Darius Taylor. Drake Lindsey is a young, talented quarterback with potential. And defensively, Minnesota should be really solid again. They don't lose that many great pieces. They return some good production. And Jeff Robertson was a big pickup at linebacker for this team out of the portal. I think Minnesota will be an all-around solid team, a bowl team or better. But Ohio State has this game at home, and they're the way more talented team. I think at this point, Julian Sayin will kind of be in his comfort zone playing good football. So give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 4-1. Ohio State then has a tricky test at Illinois. This is another one of those games where if they play a sloppy game, they could get upset. I know Illinois is nearly top of the country in return in production, but I do have some questions with them. They actually lost their top receivers in Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. They recently lost a very good back in Josh McCray. Illinois did win double-digit games last season with a good win over South Carolina in their bowl game, but I really don't know if they're that good as the media puts them out to be heading into next season. I still have questions with that offensive talent. Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback. They did pick up Hudson Clement, one of West Virginia's very good receivers from last season. But I mean, this is a team that scored 7 points against Penn State last season. They didn't have a very tough schedule. If this team does possibly make it to the playoffs, it's going to be the defense that gets the job done, because the defense should be pretty solid. But like I said, I have questions with the offensive talent, and I don't see them competing with Ohio State. I think Ohio State probably wins this game by like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And I have them moving to 5-1. Ohio State has back-to-back road games. They will play Wisconsin on the road. Maybe the tough road games catch up to them. Wisconsin is a place that teams could slip up in. But I think this is just a Wisconsin team that I don't have great expectations for. Luke Fickell hasn't done anything special for this team. A lot of people were high on Luke Fickell, but his stock has went way down. They lost a very good back in Ches Maluzzi. I think the offense does have potential to take a step forward, especially in the passing game. Vinny Anthony is back, and they do get a pretty solid quarterback pickup out of the portal in Billy Edwards Jr. The defense should be solid. They return good production. They added some key pieces up front like Corey Walker and Parker Peterson. But I really just don't have great expectations for Luke Fickell and this team. I think if they do anything, they make a bowl game, that would be a good season for them at this point. This could be tricky for Ohio State, but I'm just going to say they get this win. I have them moving to 6-1. Ohio State has a bye week, and then they go on the road to play Penn State. There are going to be a ton of eyes on this game, and this game is going to affect the playoff race and the Big Ten championship race. And I honestly could see this game going either way. The thing that makes me think Ohio State is going to win this game, though, is the fact that they have it at home, and they have had Penn State's number over the last 5 to 10 years. I am very high on Penn State. I do think they have the roster to go all the way to the national title. They were a field goal away from the Natty last season. And this is a team that returns all 5 starting offensive linemen, one of the best backfields in the country with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation with Drew Aller. The receiving room is the big question mark, but they do add Kyron Hudson and Devontae Ross, 2 very good pickups out of the portal. Devontae Ross was a great receiver from the group of 5, and Kyron Hudson made some huge plays for USC last season. Luke Reynolds is a young tight end who really showed flashes last season. I think he's going to be very good. And defensively, we know we can trust that defense. They are always consistent, and they do return some good production. I'm really high on this Penn State team, but I did have them beating Oregon, and I don't see them beating Ohio State on the road as well. I think they will lose to Ohio State on the road again. I think Ohio State will have a good enough defense, and they'll be playing their best football at this point in the season. Julian Sain will be in his comfort zone. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 7-1, getting a big win coming off the bye week. Ohio State will then go on the road to play at Purdue, and it would be hilarious if Ohio State lost this game. We never know in today's college football. Look at what Alabama did to Georgia, and then they lose to Vanderbilt. Obviously, Vanderbilt actually turned out to be a good team last season. Purdue, on the other hand, they were terrible last season, one of the worst teams. They went 2-10. Even if they take a step forward, they're still probably going to be bad. They basically overhauled the roster with a bunch of new starters. I do really like the hire of Barry Odom. I think he is a great head coach, but I really can't see this being a one-year turnaround for this team. They stand no chance against Ohio State. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 8-1. Ohio State will then play UCLA at home. This is a team that I wasn't high on at all. I was expecting them to be one of the worst teams in the Power 4. Then they add Nico Iamaleava and some solid pieces out of the portal. Maybe they can make a bowl game now. I am starting to believe in this team more. They added some solid transfers on defense. Andrew Jordan Jr., Key Lawrence, Jameer Johnson, and Benjamin Perry. All 4 of those guys should be very good contributors to that defense. On offense, they got Mikey Matthews. He could be a solid playmaker. This team just doesn't have this great talent, though. I think Ohio State will beat them, no problem. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 9-1. Ohio State will then play Rutgers at home. And although Rutgers returns a lot of production, they don't stand a chance in this game. Ohio State should just outmatch them. They have way more talent. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 10-1. Nothing much to say about this game. But here we have it. Ohio State plays at Michigan. Will they lose to the Michigan Wolverines for the 5th year in a row? And honestly, I really don't think so. I think Michigan is actually a bit overrated heading into next season. They lost a lot of their top players. They lost Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Josiah Stewart, Will Johnson. Those guys are all going to go high in the NFL draft. Defensively, they should still be solid, but how are we going to trust in a young 5-star quarterback and Bryce Underwood to completely elevate that offense when they don't really have that many great weapons at wide receiver? And they do lose some key offensive linemen. I do think they will just be a good team similar to what they were last year, probably take a step forward. But I think it's going to take some time for Bryce Underwood to develop in that offensive system. Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes should be a very good backfield, maybe even better than last year's backfield with Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullins. But I finally think Ohio State will beat Michigan. And at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if Ohio State lost this game, but it really makes no sense in my mind to pick Michigan to beat Ohio State for the 5th season in a row. Give me Ohio State to win this game and move to 11-1. But there you have it. That is going to do it for today's video. You guys let me know your prediction for Ohio State's record down in the comments below. And also let me know which team you want me to do next. But let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel. because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel, so definitely consider subscribing. And also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.